let's peel back the layers here. I want to begin with 6 years ago. This pandemic changed so many things. Now, when I'm looking at March 12th, I'm starting to get like vertigo because of that time.
Totally.
So, how did you get that through that coronavirus era, and how does it change the way that you approach life and music today?
Ooh, I think it really distilled down stuff for me. I had the whole plan originally was, I had been thinking of doing an album for years and had played as a side musician in lots of people's projects in New York and LA and San Francisco. And then I was like, I got to get together. And I remember it was literally 2020. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, get like motivated and get to New Orleans and then come back to San Francisco. And we were in New Orleans, I think for like 2 weeks. It was like, February 20th to like March 5th or 6th or something.
Yeah.
And got back to the Bay Area and SF, and like we were shut down a week later, and it was like I was supposed to do this album and I was so excited. But in that waiting period and kind of figure out when we could get everyone together and record and stuff like that, if I had recorded that like as I had planned out, the album would have been like a Rebirth brass band kind of sounding album, just like fully a brass band. And once I had that time to think about what I really wanted to say on my first album and what I wanted the band to represent, and I was just like, I have a new sound. And I was like, we're not Rebirth brass band. I didn't have that, I had some brass band, but I was like, also had some SF swing and some funk. And so it gave me this time to kind of reevaluate the sound I wanted the band to have. And I just knew it was something different, something I hadn't heard before. So that time getting through, COVID and sporadically meeting with people every month when we opened up for, a few weeks and then there was a new virus. But we would get together and I'd test out songs and I was doing different melodies and I was like, oh yeah, maybe some Afrobeat, maybe some reggae and just kind of was figuring out a new sound. So I feel like the album's kind of a wide palette of different ideas and themes that we were gonna hopefully get around in the future too for musically.
So, talk to me a little bit about what your overarching kind of vision for Back to California was. What were you really going for? What was the vibe you were going for?
My vibe was to have the groove as like my like starting point of anything. All the melodies, even the different points. I was like, I wanted every song to groove so that people who aren't huge jazz aficionados could get into it and could dance to it and don't have to know how to do Lindy Hop or swing dance and get intimidated, which is like, oh, I hear the bass drum, I hear this sousaphone, I hear this just grooving and don't have to understand it, but that you can feel it. And that was, my big thing that I take from New Orleans was I like there were so many times when I've been down there and it's people's first time in New Orleans and they're hearing these bands on the streets and they're like, "Oh, I didn't even know I liked jazz. I thought I hated jazz, And I'm like, "No, it's not the stuff in the elevator, right? Like it can be fun and super accessible." And so it was just kept hearing that voice in my head of that vibe you get when you're walking around the streets in New Orleans and people are just having fun and listening to the groove. So the overarching thing was just that I wanted this to groove on all the songs we did.
So, where were you born and raised? Take me back to your beginnings.
San Francisco, born and raised.
Okay.
But my dad's a trumpet player from Louisiana and then Oklahoma. So I grew up like, Sundays was, Louis Armstrong was every Sunday on the radio and he had my dad had his trumpet out and I was like, oh, that's just what you do. You play your horn, you know what I mean? It's a weekend and you're hanging out. So I just kind of got this upbringing of having a New Orleans musician in the house kind of and that's what your family does. And I was hitting drums and playing trumpet with him and and we'd go down and visit a bunch. Um so I would pick up and just kind of osmosis hopefully picked up some of that jazz growing up and then I was down there like a lot when I'm a filmmaker as well. So when I did the a documentary on Leroy Jones, I was down there for like months at a time, and it was these long stretches, and uh, it was great opportunities to for me to hear kind of and be like almost immersed in like full time New Orleans stuff and pull what I liked, and then I was being back and forth with SF while I was editing, and then I go shoot there for a few months, so I was just pulling like my favorite SF sounds and New Orleans sounds as I was going back and forth over those couple years.
So, who were some early influences? Who did you emulate other than having musicians in the family? Who were some sounds and musicians?
Oh man, my favorites. I'm trying to think. Louis Armstrong is my the the fact of that Louis does what he does now, and like that was out of thin air. That the background of New Orleans and stuff, but for people to be, you can go to jazz school for a PhD now and all this stuff, and people still can't figure out what he was doing, and you can't. He was just doing some genius stuff with the trumpet and obviously singing and scatting, and so that's my like favorite. And then I'm trying to think when I was young teenager, got I think Sunny Side Up album. So Sonny Stitt, Dizzy Gillespie, Sonny Rollins was one of my favorite albums growing up, and hearing those guys and doing bebop and stuff like that. So love sax players, trumpet players, and then I'm trying to think of other Curtis Fuller on trombone. Clifford Brown's one of my favorite trumpeters that I would listen to a lot. And then there's, oh man, New Orleans trumpet players, Greg Stafford, Leroy Jones, Nicholas Payton, Terrence Blanchard. Like there's just this ridiculous list of amazing trumpeters that have come from New Orleans that I listen to a lot. And they're, for some reason, that town, like drummers and trumpeters are just like for decade after decade have come out of that. Louis, go to Louis Armstrong to Louis Prima, in the 50s, doing trumpet, Leroy Jones again. You just got this like decade, Wynton Marsalis. Just that town has produced some amazing trumpeters that have done some great stuff. So yeah.
Do you remember the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away?
Oh man. Oh yeah. My dad took me to a con, and he didn't tell me what it was, and he was just like, "Oh, we're gonna go see a concert." And I was like, "All right, like this is weird." My dad usually doesn't keep secrets, and we got to the venue. I don't remember where it was in San Francisco, but it was Count Basie's band was on tour, and had a bunch of Basie records growing up, and all the big, Ellington and Glenn Miller and stuff. But it was, we were in the 15 rows back or 16, and that band started playing, and I just got sucked back to the wall. Like it was hitting hard, it was swinging so hard. I had never heard a big band like that. That was like a big wake up call of like, oh, okay, all right, this is still happening in America, and there's still some awesome jazz out there. And for a teenager, it was pretty incredible to hear. That is still one of the best swinging bands I think that has ever existed.
Absolutely. So, did you always want to be a musician? Was it always going to be music for you?
Uh yeah, I don't think I ever it was super funny. I was going through some photo albums the other day because I was hanging out with my kids and they were making fun of how old I am now, and we were going through our my high school yearbook where we had all these like awards. We had like band awards back in the day that you would get, and there was an award back then. It was like I was 16. It was like most likely to be a professional musician was the award. So I was like,
Nice.
oh man, I've been doing this for, had it in my head for a while though. So I was literally I would go to we had like staggered band periods throughout the day, and I think our jazz band was like at 7 a.m. ungodly hour. And then I had like French and like history was like period one, period two, and I literally would go cut class, go home, and like arrange jazz charts for my band. I had started a big band in high school after Basie, and so I would be at home just like arranging charts. And if my dad randomly had day off or got home early, he was just like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm working on my big band charts." He was just like, "All right, dude, like whatever." So I would go to band classes only. I would cut a ton of school and come back and listen to In the Mood and try to figure out how the saxes sounded and how the trumpets were arranged. And got super lucky because my dad was the jazz band leader for a Navy band for like 15 years. And so as part of his leading the band, he would arrange all the charts. And so at some point in high school, I just discovered these boxes of like charts of bebop, of swing, of like all this good stuff. And so it was really cool. I just like would ask my dad different questions, and he'd be like, oh, like, yeah, if this is concert C, baritone sax and he flats down a minor third, or up a six, and I would just get to have like an instant, almost like jazz arranger, consultant right there to help me figure out stuff and have these beautiful scores to learn a lot from. So yeah, it was pretty immersive early on that I was gonna be doing something in music for sure.
So, what do you like the best about being a professional musician? What gets you up every day? What pushes you to evolve and to love this community and this life of being a musician?
Yeah, I think it's being a musician, maybe even artist in general for people, is that I feel like we, especially for us, that when we do second line stuff and play in the streets and play for people, is that it kind of creates this instant community, um, and it makes people happy. It's like a really fun thing to be out in the corner with our band and just playing. You'll see people who are, stressed or on their check swiping their phone or whatever, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're doing this now. We're just gonna hang out and dance on the street corner and party and have fun. And that's one of my, favorite things. I love I love so much playing somewhere, and I'll have people from, Baton Rouge or something like that, or in San Francisco, and they'll run up and they're like, you're from New Orleans. You got to be from New Orleans, right? Like, and they're like, that made us so happy hearing your trumpet and the way you guys sound. And so those little like good energy vibes I feel like we put out, and it happens a lot with New Orleans music, which is why I think, people have so much fun when they're there and listening to jazz, is your uh that vibe and that soul of that music down there and how they do it, which is I'm hopefully bringing some of is really a living in the moment kind of music. And we're all here today. We're gonna enjoy it. You don't know what's coming up in life. So I really like having that vibe and making people happy and kind of whatever. If you had the crappiest day, having a little bit of break for a half hour and you get to listen to some music and smile and dance, I'm like, I've done my job. That like makes me very happy.
So, I'm curious, America right now is a very strange place with war, immigration, all of these things that are making people stressed. And I think artists and musicians always during times of heightened scrutiny in our country have given people levels of comfort. Arts have always been something that people have leaned on. Are you thinking about that more with albums and live shows than ever before? Is that something that's in your mind with what we're living through in this current American climate?
Yep, absolutely, Joe. I totally I think though, there's that old Nina Simone quote of it's an artist's responsibility to capture the times. And I feel like for us, that is what we do, and we can all kind of make hopefully make this country better in our ways we can. And I am not a lawyer, and I'm not an architect, and I'm not, all these other things I could do. I'm like, oh, this is what I do. I do music. If I can bring music and do this and connect people, and that's what we're kind of here to do. So it just feels like a responsibility, if you're doing your job and our job right, that we should be, trying to make things better here, trying to have fun and bring people together and stuff like that. So I'm hoping even a little bit of good spirit and good spark can start with all of us artists doing something.
For sure, that New Orleans spirit. So let me ask you this. Why do you love this art form we call jazz?
Oh man, it is it is such a magical thing to be able to do jazz, because it's such a fun way to communicate. The fact that you were talking, I remember, oh, I was hanging out with a friend the other day, and they got back from New York, and we were kind of sitting and chatting and catching up about stuff. And then he it was like a lull for a second in our conversation. He picked up his guitar and he's like, all right, man, let's really catch up now. And he's like, go get your trumpet, And it was like, oh yeah, like here's this whole other language that we can speak together and get to speak together. every time we play is going to be a little bit different, and every show we play is going to be different. And when I've done, I end up playing lots of different genres sometimes for with my horn and horn section. So if I'm playing reggae or playing some classical, and I remember if I do a classical gig for like 3 days in a row, no offense to classical people, but I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself. Like I can't play this exact music the same way it's like I'm just like, so it's to have jazz where it's this super free art form, but you're all kind of playing by some rules together, and figure out, it's just fascinating. And you can keep learning. There's always things to learn. Like, if you read, Coltrane or Sonny Rollins, these jazz giants who are always like, no, I'm not happy with my sound. I'm gonna keep working, like to have these guys who are at the top and peak of their thing, and they're always trying to search out something new and something, and be curious about life and music and their sound and what you're saying and stuff like that. So uh it is just a cool, I'm very, very blessed that we have jazz, and that magic of everything mixing in New Orleans that came out of there.
So I gotta know if you got into a time machine and went back in time and you could see one show, where are you going? Who are you gonna see?
Oh man, one show. Yeah, gotta be Louis Armstrong, New
Okay,
Orleans. Yep, yep. Red
I
Light
figured.
District, when he was first learning, first kind of figuring stuff out. I wouldn't do the other stuff there. I'd keep it on the good, just the music. I wasn't there for the other stuff in the Red Light District. But seeing Louis play in that time in New Orleans, Buddy Bolden was around when he was still a kid, and all these early, I think would be really awesome to hear one of the early shows where they were figuring out the early jazz and improvisation and stuff like that, I think.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Cameron. Everyone has a perception of you: family, friends, fans, colleagues, everyone on the bandstand, but you run the show. What's your
Mhm.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ooh, man. Perception of myself, kind of, how would I, like a
More
hippie,
of
like a hippie jazz renaissance man? Does that count? Like
that works.
I feel like, because I've got trumpet stuff, and then I also do, we'll have my camera, and I'm picking up camera and filming sometimes, and I have all these different kind of worlds that I do. So I feel like that, one of my favorite times, I was filming Leroy Jones for the documentary, and it was where I gotten to know him better. And I was like, he had like a 3 hour parade, and I was like, hey Leroy, I'm gonna film you going down this parade for like an hour and a half. I don't think I need more than that. And then Leroy was like, well, okay. He's like, well, wait, when you're done, do you want to play, trumpet with our band or whatever? And I was like, hell yeah, I want to play with her in New Orleans, while we're going for Mardi Gras. And so I had been filming with my camera and had all my camera gear. And then I was like, all right, I got enough footage. So I like put it away. And then I had like trumpet on my back and whipped it out. And like all these musicians were like, did this video guy just take out a trumpet? Like what's happening here? I'm not following so yeah, I kind of different worlds in the arts world, but I feel like it's kind of like a renaissance, like open to different things. And I paint as well. I do stuff with food stuff and chef stuff. So I kind of, yeah, hippie renaissance man. I'm gonna trademark that.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a busybody. I get it. Totally get it. So if anybody wants to pick up the new album, if anybody
Yeah.
wants back to California, if anybody wants to see you live, anything that's going on in your world, where's the best place for people to go?
Either our website, lazycalifornians.com, or social on Instagram or Facebook, at Lazy Californians. Probably the best. All the shows, yeah, social or the website. The album is all the streaming sites it's available on. And then within, I think, first week of April, we have hard copy vinyls and sweet CDs there, because physical media and is the best, and I love holding something and actually seeing who the musicians are. Isn't that a weird, cool concept to
Yeah, right.
read who's on the
Exactly.
album?
Yeah, man, I still got the CD chamber in my car. I'm popping
Yep.
it in and I'm riding it out. I love it. So, um, but Cameron, it's great to meet you, man. Thank you for taking a minute out. Best of luck with the album and everything. It was so good to connect, man.
Cheers. Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. I'll have to get out and catch some music in Kansas City sometime.
Yeah.
Neon Jazz.